Hi everyone. This is a summary of the week 2 tutorial. It's very difficult to record a normal tutorial class session because unless students are wearing microphones, the Zoom recording doesn't pick up their comments. And for our in-class tutorials, half of the tutorial time is spent students in discussion amongst themselves and then sharing ideas with class to get feedback from the tutor or from other students. So I've put together this summary that doesn't include student comments. So it's about half an hour shorter. So if you are an on-campus, registered as an internal on-campus student, we encourage you to come to class because it's an opportunity to share your ideas and learn from other students. If you are an external student, we have a live Zoom tutorial each week, which also gives you the opportunity to engage with your tutor and other students. So as I say, this is a summary of the key content of the week 2 tutorial. So anyone coming along to a tutorial, whether it's online or in class, our expectation is that everybody will participate. We try and get you to work in groups with other students to share your ideas and learn from each other. And then that forms the basis of class discussion on the cases. So we present you in the tutorials with an example of a case study that's very similar to the cases that you'll have for Assessment 1 and Assessment 3. These are cases that have previously been used as assessments in this unit. So very similar style, and so the tutorials are designed to help you prepare for Assessment 1 and Assessment 3 in particular with the case discussions. So it's a good idea if before coming to class you read through the case study to get a feel for what you think the solutions might be to the questions. And please let your tutor know if you have any expectations of how you feel tutorials could operate more effectively for you. So the purpose of AMN403 is to enhance your understanding of the marketing research process. This is an introduction to marketing research. We don't have time to get you to go out and collect any primary data. So what we're doing is stepping you through the research process in terms of starting with working out what the problem is to analysing the data. These are the same steps that we go through in this unit as QUT academic researchers follow and most market researchers that I know. And the focus is on research that will address real world problems to enhance management's decision making. So as I said, the cases in the unit tutorials have been used before as assessments. They're based on real world cases. I have uploaded to Blackboard under Learning Resources for week 2 an example of a real world request for tender, which is quite a lengthy document. And over time I've converted some of these documents into shorter case studies for you, because I don't want you to spend lots of time reading 50-page tender documents. I'd prefer you to have a 1 to 2 page case study and you spend your time focusing on addressing the assessment questions. So the assessments in this unit, the first one is due on the Friday of week 5. You need to upload an electronic version to Blackboard before 11:59 on the Friday of week 5. It's important that you know that QUT policy is that any assessment that's uploaded after that time won't be marked. Now my hands are tied in that regard. It is QUT policy at this stage. This assignment is worth 30%. It's only 1,000 words, which is about 2.5 pages. So 1,000 words, not plus or minus 10%, but 1,000 words maximum. We want you to write succinctly, and that the word count doesn't include the references. And what we'd like you to do is form your own groups of 3 to 4 students to undertake this. And the reason for that is that, in particular, we're asking you to identify a management decision problem and a marketing research question from the case in assessment 1. Now, for a lot of you, this will be new terminology and new way of looking and thinking about case studies. So we want you to work together to learn from each other, because then in the final assessment, you undertake a similar exercise, but on your own. So the first assessment is a chance to learn from other people and share your ideas. In week 8, we have an online exam. It's held at the same time as the usual lecture time slot. It's worth 20%. There's a 60-minute time frame for you to complete the exam. Now, this is an online exam, so you can sit this from anywhere in the world at the time that the exam becomes open, and there will be full instructions on Blackboard for how you participate in that exam. There are 50 multiple choice questions, and all of those questions come from the content of the lecture slides from weeks 1 to 7. So if there's something that we talk about in the lecture or in a tutorial that's not in the lecture slides that are already uploaded to Blackboard, it won't be in the exam. Now, Pearson publishers of the textbook have a wonderful online resource that you can go to practice quizzes for each chapter, and that's an opportunity for you to revise closer to the exam date and test your knowledge. I don't use those questions from that test bank in my exam, but it is a good learning resource for you. So a key point, if it's not in the lecture notes, it's not in the exam. So can't be fairer than that. All of the lecture notes have been uploaded for the entire semester. So that's where the questions will come from. And this is an example from the week 1 lecture. So at the end of each lecture from weeks 1 to 7, I give you an example of a multiple choice question. There are no trick questions. There's only one right answer for each question, and that's an example of a question that could have come from the week 1 lecture. Now, those exam questions that I give you at the end of each lecture as an example, such as this one, they won't be in the exam. They're just to give you an idea of the format. So in this case, which of the following best describes the purpose of marketing research? And the answer is A, to enhance management decision making. Now, assessment 3 is due on Friday of week 13. You have another case study. You undertake this individually, and again, upload your copy to Blackboard by 11:59. Oh, just a point regarding assessment 1 in your groups. Only one assessment per group needs to be uploaded. So just ensure that your cover page for the assessment 1 clearly states student names and ID numbers, so we know who the group members are. Okay, so assessment 3, Friday, week 13, it's worth 50%. The maximum length is 2,500 words, not including references or part B. So this is an individual assessment. There are 2 parts to this assessment. The first is recommending a research design to address the problem in the case. And we're going to be looking for a lot more detail in this assessment. Imagine that your tutor is going to pick up your assessment, go out into the real world and follow your research design to collect the data. So it should be very precise in terms of how the data would be collected, who it would be collected from, and so forth. So we'll talk more about that as we go through the semester. Part B is you'll be undertaking 3 data analysis techniques using a data set that I've provided for you using SPSS software. SPSS software is available freely on campus. And for external students, if you go to spss.com, closer to the time, you'll find that there's a 14-day free download trial version of the full SPSS package that you will need. So you'll have 2 weeks use of it by accessing it from spss.com. All right, so then the second half of each tutorial is discussing a case. Now in class, the process is that we firstly get everyone to sit together in groups and think about just the first part. What is the management decision problem? We then come back and discuss everyone's views and then go back and get the groups to look at what is the marketing research question. We have a discussion, then go back and get each group to think about, well, what are the research objectives you would recommend to achieve the marketing research question. So you have a tutorial guide that's been uploaded to Blackboard that contains all the cases that we're using this semester. At this point in this online tutorial, I would suggest you pause and reread the case for week 2. So in this case, we're looking at a real world case where I was myself working at CQ University in Bundaberg briefly when the campus manager came to me with the problem in this case. So first question that you need to work out is, what is management's decision problem here? What do management want to do? Now, it doesn't have to be in complex language. Often a major challenge, major problem, major opportunity can be worded quite simply. Now, the management decision problem should be just one sentence. That's what we're expecting in your assessment. Then have a line space, and then have a brief paragraph just explaining what your rationale is for that management decision problem in your assessment. It's important to note that that rationale, the MDP, can only come from what's written in this case. You can't make any assumptions from outside this case. There's no references required. You don't have to Google any other documents. The management decision problem can only come from what's written in this case. Okay, so in this case, the campus manager came to me and wanted me to conduct a questionnaire to find out the solution to the problem. And I felt that a questionnaire at that stage wasn't going to address the problem. But essentially, the management decision problem was wanting to know why were so few local Year 12 students selecting CQU Bundaberg campus in their QTAC applications. Another way of viewing it is, how can we attract more local students? So the major problem was that only 1 in 5 local high school students were selecting CQ Bundaberg. 4 out of 5 were selecting an alternative form of higher education. So in this case, there's 2 differently worded MDPs, but both quite acceptable. So often with the cases in the assessments, there's no one perfectly worded answer, but there should be a generality of statements. The rationale then helps us to understand how you arrived at that MDP if you've got something that we don't understand. So it's very important that you recognize that the MDP can only come from the information presented in that case. Now, in this case, CQ University, there are mentioned there about small campus and some other problems, but we don't know at this stage until we conduct research what is the actual problem. So we actually need to go out and talk to Year 12 students to work out why they're not selecting CQ Bundaberg. We can't assume it's because of the location or small size campus and so forth. So based on that, I'd suggest you pause this recording and now think about, from that, how would you word the marketing research question? What is the information, the key information that the researchers need to get to address this MDP? So in your marketing research question, you'll quite likely have a construct. So the construct in this case, and for each of the cases in the tutorials, I'm presenting a different construct to give you an idea of how different marketing constructs apply in different cases. In this case, the construct is market position. So where you identify a construct in your marketing research question, in your rationale, following your marketing research question, if you identify a construct, it's a good idea to provide a definition from the literature and reference that definition, because that will then help you to work out how you collect data. So we can break it down into 2 research objectives, for example. So if I, in this case, want to know how do local year 12 students differentiate the available tertiary education options? So it's important here that our wording is precise. So I'm using tertiary education rather than university, because there are other options such as TAFE or private colleges that they might be selecting as well. So we wouldn't use the term university in that case. That would be too limiting. So how do they differentiate between the different options available to them? Now that, because I undertook this research, I wanted to find out, well, how is CQU positioned? Therefore, what are our strengths and weaknesses relative to the other options? So a very precise 1-sentence marketing research question. So at this stage, I'd suggest you, again, just pause the recording and have a think about how you could break that market position construct down into 2 research objectives, which would be worded as to do something. So if we achieve these 2 objectives, if we undertake the research to achieve these 2 objectives, we find out the answer to our question, and that is how QUT is positioned in the minds of year 12 high school students. So in this case, if I want to measure the positioning of a university or any other brand, holiday destination, and so forth, one objective that I would have is to identify the range of tertiary attributes that are salient to year 12 students at decision time. So that is, what are the features, so attributes, what are the features that are top of mind, salient to these students at the time they are making their decision. That requires exploratory research rather than a questionnaire. We need to actually go and talk to these students, which is what I did in the actual research, to find out from them, in their own words, what's important to them when they're considering higher education. A second objective, I've presented 3 examples here. For your assessments, you're only required to have 2. So to identify how the campus is perceived to perform on those attributes. So we develop a list of salient attributes, so features of higher education. And then we develop a questionnaire and ask year 12 students, our sample target market, to measure how CQU is perceived to perform, and then how key competitors are perceived to perform on those same attributes. So that way, we can identify what are the strengths and weaknesses of Central Queensland University relative to the competition. And that shows us how we're positioned in their minds across the range of salient attributes. So important attributes that are top of mind when they are differentiating between available tertiary education options. So I hope that that's of some help to you in your preparation for the case in assessment 1.